It's been a long time. I haven't been able to do an episode in a little while. Um, but I am Johnell with Designated Report, and I'm excited. I'm excited to bring season 2, episode 4 of the Designated Report Behind the Lens. And I'm here with a very special guest. It is Megan Lee. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really excited to be doing this. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. It's been a pretty low-key Saturday, which I can't complain about a bit. But yeah, I'm excited. It's been and we'll get into it, but last year I know I started following you. You're definitely somebody I thoroughly enjoy everything that I see from you. So I'm excited we get to talk sports, we get to talk life, and kind of dive into all those different things. So I guess first and foremost, who's Megan Lee? Where are you from? Where are you now? How old are you? Just a little background.
Yeah. Born and raised in Annandale, Virginia, kind of in Fairfax County, right below DC, about 20 minutes below DC. I'm getting into this is my last semester at VCU. I turned 21 over the summer. Thank you. Got 3 classes going and trying to crank those out by December. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I guess, let's see. Should I just hop into kind of photography journey, how that kind of ended up?
Yeah, for sure. How did that all come about?
All right. Well, let's see. My family's always kind of had a camera, like just in the house. And I kind of thought a camera was a household object for everybody. I just thought that was something that everybody had. I really didn't think too much of it. And then by the time I got to high school, I was just taking photography classes, just kind of for fun. I had really, my first kind of like art form that I kind of fell in love with was drawing. And I think that was my kind of personality kind of ties. Elementary, middle school was just, oh, Megan's the artist. Megan's gonna draw everything that we need. Like she'll do, if we ever need something, Megan's gonna do it for us. So that was kind of me growing up. And then just like I said, always had the camera around the house and would take it on family vacations, but really never thought anything of it. By the end of high school, I would say photography wise, the only thing I was really doing was if my brother had a sports game when I didn't happen to have a game, I would go and take pictures for him. But it was never, oh, I'm doing this because I really want to do this. It was more just, I want my brother to have pictures of himself. And there's just his team, and I was friends with his team and just wanted them to have pictures and all that. So I didn't think much of it. Ended up at VCU. It was the only in-state school I had applied to. I was looking at kind of really pretty far away, kind of more art schools that I was applying to, and was going to go into film. And then the time got closer and I was just like, I can't leave home. I can't leave my family. So I got a little nervous and just went with VCU, and I was really glad I had that as an option still. So enrolled in art school here, studying cinema, and had also started a broadcast journalism track, my other major, but that turned into digital journalism, which is what I'm finishing up now. But VCU, I got here and I was enjoying it. I really liked Richmond, but I was just like, dang, I really wish I was still playing a sport. I was pretty upset about it. I played field hockey and lacrosse growing up and did track during high school too. And I was playing club here, but I just didn't really feel the same. And I felt like I had kind of messed up. So I was whenever I had free time, really my freshman year, I was on the phone with coaches just, hey, I wasn't really in the loop of recruiting end of high school, kind of trying to backtrack a little bit, like, would you be open to me coming on, me just visiting campus? And I had a lot of coaches saying like, yeah, sure, nothing crazy, just kind of like more local, closer to home, like D2, D3 schools. Then I kind of eventually brought it to my parents. I was like, VCU's fine, but I'm not playing a sport here, and I think I really miss playing field hockey. My dad was like, you're not leaving, you gotta push through the year at least.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Finished that, come back to VCU sophomore year, hadn't really made anything of it. Still pretty regretful about not playing a sport. And then my friend was with the newspaper at the time at VCU, student newspaper, the Commonwealth Times. And he was like, gonna shoot a basketball game. And he knew I had taken pictures of stuff and was interested in photography, but still hadn't really made that sports photography connection yet.
Yep.
So I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't know anything about basketball. That was one of the sports I did not touch growing up. I didn't know anything with it. But I was like, yeah, sure. Got into Siegel Center, which is arguably one of the best like kind of fan environments you can really have in college basketball. And I'm on the court. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the rules. I'm just like, I'm having a good time. I'm just confused, but I was having a good time. So I finished the game, looking at my pictures. They were crazy dark. I couldn't see anything. They were very blurry. Didn't know what I was doing. Thankfully the newspaper was like, yeah, like if you want to come back, you can just keep taking pictures. So
that's awesome.
I would say, yeah, and I'm so grateful for my friend that let me come on, grateful for the newspaper. I'm the photo editor at that newspaper now, so it's been a full circle moment. But they're really the reason I stayed at VCU, and VCU basketball is really why I stayed, because I just love taking pictures for them. So that was that, and finished up that year in Brooklyn with them at the Barclays Center for the A10 tournament, and that got shut down as it was happening because of COVID. The team had warmed up and the anthem was about to play, and I saw the refs kind of going like this. I was like, it's like, what is going on? And I saw the team and they were like hugging each other. I just kind of thought it was like okay, like let's get ready, like this is it, this is conference time. But then I'm looking more, and then like a voice comes over the intercom, and it's just like the A10 tournament is canceled, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's canceled, but like we're gonna just play our game at least. I didn't think it was getting shut down, but they just called it. The guys went home. I think they got on a flight that day or the next day, and that was that. And that's kind of how my first season of basketball ended. So I have yet to have a full regular basketball season, because I mean I had all of last season, but that was still very scaled back and fan wise, and I was really in the stands for most of it. But that's kind of the basketball journey, and I've picked up working with University of Richmond a little bit, kind of the rivals downtown, but it's all right, it's all good. But it's been fun. But that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am right now.
So when you started playing, or when you started shooting, that was like early 2020 when your friend asked you to come to some of the games? That
was probably November, December 2019.
Okay.
So the season was definitely after the beginning of the season.
Okay.
But I would say it was consistent by probably like January 2020.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that whole timeline makes sense of you being at the A10 tournament and then everything kind of getting shut down in, mid-March or whatever it was last year.
Right.
And just throwing a monkey wrench in everything that was going on last year.
It was the strangest thing. And I just remember I remember that train ride back from Brooklyn back to DC for me. There's this girl in front of me on the train, and I remember we got off at DC, and I just saw her she had like Lysol wipes in her bag, and she was wiping down everything. And at that time, I was just like, what is she doing? I was like, this is a little too much.
Yeah.
And then, it was a week later, I was like, oh, we're going to extend that 2-week break or whatever it was. And crazy.
No, for a lack of a better word, 2020 was nuts. And I just remember, I remember everything kind of shutting down after Rudy Gobert on the Jazz. He kind of brought light to everything when, he was diagnosed or found to have COVID. But yeah, during that time, I just remember, cause I'm in Connecticut, so I'm probably like an hour away from New York City, and nobody really knew what was going on or how serious it was or anything like that. And I remember taking a trip down to the city, and I didn't tell anybody. I was nervous that people were gonna judge me and the whole nine.
Right.
But I had to see it. I went down to Times Square. It was empty. It was nuts. Just the whole, it was a crazy experience. I hope we don't have to deal with it again. But I'm definitely glad that it seems like we're moving in a direction where things kind of get back to normal. I know there's been fans in the stands, which have been great. We kind of saw that towards the late 2020 as well. So, that's crazy. So you've really only been shooting sports for a year-ish?
I feel like I'm I guess I'm really about to hit my 2-year mark of when I first kind of started, but I would say really in depth, it's only been about a year and a half.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you definitely got, from what I've seen on your website as well as on your Instagram page, to me at least, you've got a very distinct style, like the way that you shoot, just the way the photos look, the way you edit them. So again, to do that in such a short period of time is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any like mentors or anything like that? Somebody who's kind of been in your ear, like, hey, this is good, this isn't, you should try
Mhm.
this, anything like that?
I don't know if I've really had a single person that's kind of put me in the right path. I think just Richmond in general is a great art city. There's tons of, I mean, I think a lot of it's very kind of like drawing and painting, like that kind of art down in Richmond. But
Hmm.
there's also, I think, very much an up and coming kind of photo and film environment in Richmond that's growing. And I think I've been fortunate enough to kind of just take away from that and find people. Like I said, like I think the first person I could really look up to was my friend at the time who was the photo editor of the newspaper,
Okay.
and he's the one
Okay.
that gave me that credential. And it wasn't even that he was really shooting that many sports events or anything. I mean, his sports stuff was awesome when he did cover it for the newspaper, but he was just a great photographer and was really really just very open to helping out people and trying to get more technical stuff, because and still to this day, like I'm still not super knowledgeable technically speaking with cameras. If somebody was to bring up and like ask me which camera they should buy, I don't know how much input I could really have.
Gotcha.
But I would say he's been a big part of it. Let me think. I just feel like just everybody in the Richmond community has been awesome. I've got one guy, I think his Instagram handle is like as StatZay. He was really getting into the video world himself, but still really wants to help other people kind of grow their own
Absolutely.
stuff. So he was awesome about it. Wasn't even sports stuff for that too. It was just, hey, I'm shooting a music video, like they're looking for behind the scenes, do you want to come? And I was like, I've never done that stuff, but sure. So just people like that I think I've just been fortunate enough to have people come my way, and they've kind of opened doors for me. And I feel like everything I've done has been because of at least 2 or 3 people that were just like, oh, like Meg's around here, like she could like really help out, maybe whatever you need. And I feel like I'm still kind of young enough just within photography to be open to, I'm not gonna like shut down one opportunity because it's not my vibe or anything like that.
Yep.
Which I think once you kind of get into your space, I think you're kind of allowed to be like, oh, that's not really quite my thing anymore. But I think there are people that do that and people that don't do that, and whichever way is like fine. But I think I'm still very open to just kind of exploring stuff. So
Absolutely.
it's hard to pinpoint one person, but I just feel like Richmond community, Virginia in general. I will say, I don't know if you know, his Instagram handle is JB Made That. He does more video
I don't
stuff.
think so.
He worked for Slam. He's now kind of full-time, I think, student stuff with Liberty University. He's just also been he's younger than me and his stuff is insane, but just similar kind of vibe, just open to helping people however they can, but just a lot of good people. Yeah.
And that's definitely something from doing this series and just taking photos myself. And honestly, I think just the creative, like that group of people are very open to sharing ideas, and they're willing to help and provide input and things like that. It's a very supportive community, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think there are definitely just here and there are people that you can kind of tell they're more just not necessarily like shutting other people out or gatekeeping, but I think they like their space and they don't really want to interact. And I think if that works for you, then it works. And I think I've just kind of found my way of maybe just kind of moving on from like people like that and finding, because this community is like awesome. I think this community can be a very supportive community, and I think I don't know, I feel like there's always just every now and then on Twitter, there's like, oh, like something's happening, blah, blah, blah. I think it's kind of funny, just the drama that happens within like the creative stuff. But I can't say I've really experienced it firsthand, but no, it's been an awesome community.
That's great. So I know that, so you're down in Richmond, you're shooting Richmond primarily. Are you shooting VCU as well?
I would say within the last 4 months or so, it's been mostly University of Richmond. They have been, just speaking of good people, that whole campus, I was happily surprised. It's been the best people at U of R. Not downplaying VC or anything like that, but and I think it's a different approach. I think I'm more kind of newspaper journalistic coverage almost with VCU, and I think I got a little bit into athletics with VCU. I feel like it was like maybe last season a little bit, but didn't really pick up much. But I was just looking to really get in more with a team and have more of that kind of experience, just being with a school or with a team, whatever that was. And I reached out to University of Richmond. I want to say June or July, and they somehow connected me with marketing, and we set up a Zoom call the next day. And they were just like, yeah, like, we've got some extra room here. Like, if you want an office, we can come work that out for you too. And I was shocked. I was not expecting any of that. But they have been amazing, from the players to the coaches to just faculty within sports marketing, just really overall, just amazing people. So I'm doing a lot with them right now, photo-wise. A couple videos here and there, but can't say that's too much of my vibe, but yeah.
And you're covering everybody from what I've seen: football, lacrosse, I think I saw baseball, everything.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think I've still got pretty strong bias with basketball, and I think just because that's what I got started with, and I think the basketball culture is just a different culture. I just think you can't really get that with another sport, and I think there's reasons for that. But no, football has been awesome with Richmond, just being able to be outside, just a different environment, really. Yeah, lacrosse and field hockey, it's always interesting shooting when I shoot them, because those are the sports I grew up playing.
Yeah.
So it always, I don't want to say I can't say I feel like it helps my photography that much. I feel like whatever athletic kind of experience I've had has helped me with everything. I think there's a lot of parallels between basketball and lacrosse, and I think a lot even with like field hockey and soccer. So I think because I think there's a conversation to be had about photographers who did play sports growing up, and if they're the ones taking it, I think there's an added edge that they have, I think. But it does feel very full circle, kind of taking field hockey and lacrosse pictures, and part of me is like, I kind of wish that was me, but it's been awesome. But yeah, pretty much every sport at Richmond, it's been cool.
And I was actually going to ask you about that. So you played lacrosse, you played field hockey, but you came into, shooting basketball, shooting football, obviously, sports that you didn't play. Basketball, you didn't know the rules. Has that been a benefit or to your detriment that you didn't necessarily know the rules and like what was going on? So I feel like while it might not be great because, you don't necessarily know like where the play is going or, like what happened or things like that. I think it also gives you a little bit more freedom because you're just shooting what you're seeing as opposed to trying to anticipate what's going on.
I agree. And I kind of think it's hard for me to, when people say that they think my work kind of has like a consistent theme or look to it, it's hard for me to really see what that look is. And I can't say that I'm going for a certain look whenever I go out to shoot, but I do think that whatever look there is within my work, I think part of that, especially for basketball, was just, like you said, like I didn't know what I was looking for. I knew obviously like there's gonna be some dunks, there's gonna be some 3-pointers. I knew the very basic stuff of what was going on, but it opened, I think for me, like you said, I think it was just a whole nother kind of like realm of like freedom just within shooting basketball, because if I really felt so uncomfortable with what I was shooting, I could just go to the bench and just take pics of the guys just laughing or cheering them on. And I think that's stuff that some photographers forget to take pictures of, and I think there's a moment for it. Maybe I was doing it too much when I first started because I really didn't know what I was looking for, but I think it's also helped me just, again, especially with basketball, looking more for the emotion with the players, because like we're saying, like I didn't really know what the play was going to end up looking like. I didn't know how long it was going to stay on this side of the court. I didn't know what the dynamics really were when I first started. So I was thinking more for, okay, like I don't know where the ball's going to be, but I know that so-and-so is going to start laughing as soon as so-and-so does this.
Gotcha.
So I think that's kind of helped me kind of pull emotion in my pictures, and I think that's why I like basketball so much, is because there's no gear covering their faces, and I think that plays into the whole culture aspect of why basketball is different from a lot of other sports. I just feel like it's more vulnerable. I feel like it's more accessible to fans to kind of see what the players are looking like, what they're feeling. But that was probably the best part. I think at VCU, just one of my favorite parts in general was especially like we had Bones Highland, and I think Bones is probably our most notable guy just because he's with the Nuggets now, and I think that's who people are kind of associating with VCU at this point.
Mhm.
But I would say my favorite part, at least with the past season, was just seeing Bones and another player, Ace. They were friends before VCU, and just seeing their friendship on the court, I think for me it was perfect because like again, like I'm looking more for the emotion stuff, and they were, I mean, I just knew like if Ace was smiling, Bones was smiling, and I just like there was always going to be some kind of high five or something was going to happen, and I just those moments are probably my favorite. And I think that just not really knowing too much about the actual sport itself helped me find those moments. And I think now that I've had another year of kind of getting more in touch with basketball, I can kind of balance it out now, and I have an idea of what's going on. And yeah, it's just been I think it was a good kind of started with more just emotion stuff or just trying to get pictures of whatever I could, and it's been a good year of figuring out what's going on. So I think now it's a good balance.
Yes, yeah. And I think to your point, I think that's a lot of what it is. It's as much as it's the technical part of the sports, there's also just a feel to what's going on, and like especially with fans back, there's just a different type of engagement that you get that you can't script. So it's like, hey, like this team has been making, like every time they make a 3-pointer, the bench is jumping around going crazy.
Right.
It's like, all right, well, it's a close game. It's the fourth quarter. There's 2 minutes left and you see a 3 go up. It's like, all right, like this is a big moment. Let me make sure I keep this in the back of my mind. So, I think you said it beautifully. It's just like a blending of like a lot of different things. And I feel like, and again, it kind of depends on what you're doing or what your intentions are going into the game, or, like if you have a particular task. But I think it's just the blending of all of the things on the field, on the court, that really go into like what we consume, like what, people on social media, or if it's on TV or whatever. All of those things go into making something like really beautiful, really memorable. So yeah, it's I love it. I love the whole thing. And kind of piggybacking off of that, I know you said, I think you have a style. You said you don't necessarily see it. But what makes, in your eyes, what makes a good photo? Like what do you look for? Or maybe it's not a photo that you've taken, maybe it's something that you've seen and you're working to get to that point. But what in your mind makes a good photo or an impactful photo?
Yeah. For me, I feel like, and again, maybe this goes in with not having an excessive amount of like formal photography training. I have to say, like, composition wise, like the only really like rule I have in my head is the rule of thirds, and I think I rely on that pretty heavily, maybe whether it's like in camera or like post, like when I'm editing and stuff. So I would say composition wise, just I like to have usually just, if it's a closer up, like or like if it's a close up, I would tend to have I don't know, I think like the eyes like play a big role. If I can get like somebody's just kind of like where they're looking, I think that's a big thing, and always just kind of setting their eye line somewhere on like that third. I would say composition wise, like that's what I'm looking for, but I would say more just when I take pictures looking for a good photo, I don't want to be repetitive. I just like emotion. Like if I can see somebody laughing, like honestly, I think I would take a picture of like if, let's say in basketball, somebody's like shooting a 3, like I think I personally, if I could only get his reaction, or I could only get the shot itself, I would probably go for the reaction.
That makes sense.
And I think just kind of having that in my head, and it's been helpful to kind of, I think maybe just athletic background, and also just kind of watching these sports for a year or two now, just kind of knowing what's going to happen next and looking for that reaction. And I feel like a lot of my stuff, at least my shots that I go back and if I were to choose like my favorite shots, most of them don't happen to be in play stuff. Most of it is like on the bench, or it's the guys like football, like getting a water break, like something when they're not really in play. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing within sports photography, but I would say most of my stuff, I really prefer just kind of the in-between moments, like whether it's a huddle and it's like a little,
I like that, yeah.
A little like handhold at a huddle, or if it's I don't know, I think they've got just like pictures. I think I have this one picture of one of the basketball players, and he's with the coach. And it's just them talking, and it's the picture itself isn't anything special, but it's just those little kind of moments. I really like getting those ones. I kind of feel like it goes back to the one photographer I looked up to kind of growing up, or once I got into photography in high school. Just there was only one photographer that I really came back to, and it was actually Linda McCartney. It's Paul McCartney's his first wife. So she's passed, so it's all of her work from like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But she became like the Beatles like main not their photographer, but she would like really cover a lot of
like behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes stuff, like in the studio or at parties or whatever. And she would shoot like Jimi Hendrix and a lot of other kind of bigger 60s and 70s musicians. But the thing about her work was, I mean, it was them like in the studio, but it wasn't them actually recording. It was them like their feet kicked up on like the mixed board, or like that kind of like, you know, just like. And I think that stuff, I don't think I really realized how much of an impact it had on me until I kind of looked back at my work maybe a couple months ago, just kind of maybe when I was like redoing websites and stuff like that, just kind of like looking at all of it. Her work was just a lot of, like I said, it was people that have come to a certain point in their life, like have reached a level of kind of popularity in their life because of what they do. Like for her, it was music, and I think for me, it's sports. But she wasn't really taking pictures of them doing what they were known for. It was just kind of hanging out and chilling. Like one of her pictures is just like Jimi Hendrix like yawning or something, and it's just like nobody else would have kept that picture because it's him like mid, like everybody else around him is like posed and he's just yawning, and I just think it's like awesome. I don't know, I just really like those kind of things, and I think that's really played a big role in just what I'm looking for when I take a picture.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And again, you're saying a lot of things that you're articulating a lot of things that I've thought about and never really put to words, but I agree 100%. Like, again, especially for people who aren't necessarily on the field, on the court, even if they're at the game, they're not necessarily going to see the coach and player interaction the way that you would, or if you have, you know, a long telescopic lens and you can kind of get in there and see it. So like you said, like two players holding hands in a huddle. Like there's a lot of power in that, you know, like framed within that story, just outside, you know, beyond the score of the game. And to your point, I think it's really beautiful, the fact that that's kind of the first place that you go to, because it's something that is often overlooked. I feel like just the nuances of like of the game, the fans, player interactions. I think all of that stuff plays a, you know, maybe a small role, but ultimately it plays a role in everything, like the whole game, you know.
Definitely, yeah. And I think just me being naive going into really sports in general, aside from the sports that I played, like I don't up until maybe last year, I didn't watch NBA games. Like I didn't grow up watching NFL games or anything like that. Like we would have it on Sundays, you know, but I was like, oh, like my mom's watching like another NFL game. Like I'm not really interested. So I think just being so naive going into that, I think it's helped me, because I just, again, like what we were saying, I didn't go into and like the first game, like I wasn't looking for it. My friend just offered me that credential. So I think it helps sometimes just not, I guess, I don't know how to say this. I wasn't like a sports fan, so I wasn't going in like, I'm going to shoot, this means that I can get pictures of so-and-so doing,
Gotcha, yeah.
You know, so I wasn't looking for a certain thing. And I think it's helped me a lot. And I didn't know the players, and like, even just, I went down to Charlottesville, like this time last year with Damon Altizer, who's an awesome guy, but he's a trainer down there, and trains everybody from like, I feel like high school to NBA really. And I had reached out one day, and again, just another good person who is just open to helping out people. And I DM'd him on Twitter, and I was just like, if you ever need help, like if you ever need pictures with any of the training stuff you're doing, like let me know. He got back to me super quick and was like, yeah, like I've got some guys training. And I was thinking it's gonna be some high schoolers. I was just like, okay, cool. Like it's gonna be a new opportunity, a new little scene. And I walk in there, and they obviously weren't high schoolers. I was like, maybe they're in college, I don't know. And then, but I could see they had like NBA gear on, but it was like, this is still like last year, so I was like still didn't really know what was
Yeah.
going on. I took the pictures, I edited them, and I sent them off, and I was like, thanks for having me, like it was really fun. And then I don't know if I was just Googling or if I was talking to somebody, and they were like, no, that was like Ty Jerome, and like that was like Grey Hunter. It's like, what? They're like, no, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just think it's helped me because I think one thing is nerves. I don't really get nervous because I don't think I still fully get the scale of how considerable these people are. It can, like, they are within the basketball world or whatever sport they're in. But yeah, I don't know how I got here, but it was just kind of like, just not really knowing fully what I'm getting into sometimes, and I think it helps.
Yeah. So you're a student, you are working, obviously, you're doing editing, you're doing, actually taking photos, the whole nine. Do you have any free time? Like, what do you do in your spare time, in your downtime?
Yeah, I do get this question a decent amount, but I don't think I really do have too much free time. I don't say that in a cocky way or anything, but my schedule is just full, whether it's class or taking pictures. And honestly, if there isn't something scribbled into my calendar for a shoot or something, there's usually that day is probably going to be an editing day, and it's going to be catching up on pictures. So I really don't have that much downtime, but I kind of feel like that's just how I've been since high school. I took a pretty rigorous like high school kind of course load, just especially junior senior year, and I think by that point, I mean, I was going straight from like games, going home, and then I'd be up until like 3 or 4 in the morning doing homework, and I think it's, not looking back, not healthy. And in high school pictures of me, you can see I'm just tired. Like, it's just very like, that's just kind of a joke with me and my high school friends. Like, we just look miserable because we were just so tired. And I think for better or for worse, I think I've kind of kept that kind of mentality of like, I need to be doing something. I think I just kind of operate better like that. And I think just being on the move so much, I don't have a ton of time to really put into like maybe not the social life I would want to have or quite have, but it's been good. I don't think I have too much free time, but I think I kind of like it like that. I think it's nice to have maybe like, a couple of weekends here and there where I can just kind of sit back and watch Netflix. And I think Netflix is probably what I'm doing when I'm not, when I do have the free time. But I think my high school experience kind of locked me into this mentality of, I just need to be doing something, and maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but I think that's kind of where I'm at. But Netflix is probably where I'm relaxing. Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, December you'll be done with school, so at least you'll have a little more time to fill with editing, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. Do some of that. No, it's been, and I think that is one thing, just my goal is just kind of more as a person is to figure out just another kind of pastime. Netflix is good, but I feel like there's something else I could be doing. I did play like club field hockey and club lacrosse at VCU for a little bit, kind of pre-pandemic, because it just hasn't really picked itself back up quite yet. But so yeah, I would say like Netflix or playing those sports when I could. I am in the gym pretty frequently, so I think I'll try to maybe pass it with some gym time too. But I feel like always trying to be on the move.
Yeah. And I think I read someplace that you are constantly updating your rap and country playlists. Is that?
Yes. Love a good rap song, love a good country song. I'll throw them together. Maybe not when I've got other people in the room, but yeah.
Give me your favorite songs right now. Give me 3.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I will say, I don't know about top 3 songs, but I did just listen to the new Don Toliver album, and it's crazy. Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I don't know if I will say I did like the 2 songs that he had with, I'm gonna have to pull it up. Let me see. It was his album All Yesterday. Before that, to be honest, I've had Drake on repeat. Like,
okay.
Certified
Lover Boy, yeah.
I don't know if I'm proud of it, but it has been on repeat. And it's, I don't know. But I would say those are my 2 very kind of mainstream, I would say, kind of rap. Who else have I been listening to? I would say country wise, a lot of Chris Stapleton,
Yes.
a lot of Luke Combs.
Yes.
So still, I would say pretty mainstream within those two genres, but maybe the mix of them is what's not so usual, I would say. But
Did you listen to I think it's Nelly and Florida Georgia Line?
yes, I did.
Did you like it?
First listen, I was like, I don't know. Second listen, I was like, okay, sort of. I don't know if we can get a better kind of. I don't know if we can get a better rap and country duo than we did with like Lil Nas X and Billy Ray. I thought that was kind of.
Classic.
I mean, it's become a classic. I mean, I don't. The jokes aside about just that song just being how popular it got. I mean, that was like a crazy just bringing two genres together. I think that was a huge landmark song. Like, I think that was, whether you like it or not, I mean, that was a good combo of bringing two genres together. But I'm trying to think if I have any other let's see. Play a lot of Key Glock, a lot of Young Dolph. I don't know, still pretty, I feel like typical kind of rap stuff, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think offhand, or I don't want to waste any more time, but I definitely have some country songs for you.
Yes.
So I'll send them your way.
Send them my way, yes, please.
Hopefully you haven't heard all of them already, but I got some for you.
Please do. Always looking for some new ones. Yeah.
Perfect. So this is a question I ask everybody, and I'm always so interested, and you kind of touched on it maybe, but I'm always so interested in what the responses are. I don't think I've gotten the same response twice, and I wouldn't expect it, honestly. But the photography process, the whole thing, what's your favorite part about it?
Wow. I would say my favorite part, and I'll give you a different answer if you think that this isn't really in the process of it.
No, go ahead.
But I love sending off the photos. I love what the players say when they get the photos, or whoever the client is, just because I mean that's really what makes it for me. I think what's really driving me to do this stuff is, if I were in the player's shoes, I would want pictures, not in like a kind of narcissistic way, but just to look back on. Like, really what I'm thinking is, okay, these players are gonna have kids one day, and they're gonna have like grandkids one day, and they're gonna want to show off like what they were doing. And that's kind of what's in my head when I go out to shoot. I'm just like, they're gonna want to show what they were doing when they were their grandkids' age, like in however many years. So just giving it to them, and honestly, the parents have been awesome too. I think it's the sweetest thing when I get a parent that has somehow found my Instagram and they're just like, "Thank you so much for the pictures." I'm like, "You're very welcome." But that part's great, and that would probably be my favorite part, is just getting that text or seeing them in person the next day and just being like, "Oh, like, thanks for the pictures." Or I think one that stands out is we had a girl on the women's basketball team here at BCU last year, and her family, I think, was either in, I want to say New Zealand. It's not New Zealand, in Australia, but her mom had reached out and was just like, because I think it's kind of hard to see, like, if I'm working with VCU, if I'm working with the newspaper, but she was just kind of like, I know, like, you take pictures for the team, like, do you think you could just put in, like, send me pictures of her playing? Like, we obviously can't make any of the games because they live across the globe. So just getting stuff like that and being able to send it off, and just knowing that they can have it, maybe not even now, but just in 30, 40, 50,
Absolutely.
who knows, that they can have those pictures. That's probably my favorite part of it. Yeah, if that's like post process, then I'll give you a different answer.
No.
But, yeah.
No, that's all part of it. Have you gotten, and probably not, I'm guessing not, but have you ever gotten a, probably more from a parent, but I guess from a player as well, a, like, why didn't you get a picture of so-and-so?
I don't know. I might have, probably from players, to be honest. If I like send out a link to like a team just like a team overall, like team album that I send to somebody or to the team or individual player, whoever. Like they'll send it to the rest of the team. And I have occasionally gotten, they're usually, especially at the college level, it's usually more of a joke of like, oh, like,
Gotcha.
didn't get me, kind of that kind of thing. It's a little tougher kind of at the high school or even like middle school level, because I feel bad because, you know, if I'm not there and if my kind of like rules or assignment wasn't to get every single person on the team, then I'm probably not gonna get every single person on the team, especially like if it's these high school teams that are coming in and out of the city that I don't really have any ties to. I'm just gonna be following the action, you know? And it breaks my heart a little bit when I get a message from a high schooler who's like, did you have any numbers like number 13? And I'm like, oh no, like I'm sorry. But I can't say I've had anybody too upset over it, but it does hurt me a little bit. I just feel bad when I miss a player, but yeah. So us over at Designated Report, for the first time actually, because just to give you a little background on us, we started the company in 2019, and then 2020 hit and everything kind of shut down. So we kind of trudged through 2020, and it wasn't until just recently like we've been able to get into sporting events to cover and take pictures and the whole nine. But also this year we are covering our local high school team. And the reason why I asked that question is I'm getting that currently where, you know, I've had parents reach out to us like, why haven't you gotten pictures of our kids? I've had players from the other team like, do you have pictures of me? And I'm like, yeah, I got a couple, like kind of by accident, like I'm not here for you. Exactly.
And then I would send them the pictures, and they would be like, do you have any more? And I'm like, guy, what are you expecting?
But that's a whole nother, and I feel like that's just part of the business, and I think it's kind of what you sign up for is just having to, and I think it's more the business side of it is just having to deal with, I guess it's like an unhappy client almost, is just kind of, which are they really clients if they weren't the ones that I was being told to go shoot, you know? It's just part of the game. It's that, and I think it's also, which I just kind of joke it off. Like, I think it is, I think it could be a deeper issue for some people, but I mean, I'll get players, let's say like last season for VCU, I would drive the 3-5 minute drive that it takes to get to the Siegel Center from my house last year. And before I had even made it back to my house, I would have a DM from one of the players, like, where the pics, and I'm like, they're still on my camera. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what they look like. But it's funny. It's like, it's never really been something that's like bothered me terribly or anything like that. I think it can get a little repetitive, especially once certain players kind of pick up that you're going to be at every game, and they're kind of like, okay, I'm going to make sure that Meg has my pictures, which is, I think it's a privilege. I think it's just kind of like that pressure, kind of like as a privilege kind of thing, just kind of trying to get, it just means that, you know, we're where we want to be, and it's coming with the job. But I usually just kind of joke those things off.
So on the flip side, you told me what your favorite part is, that's sending everything out. Do you have a part of the photography process that you dislike, that you wish you could have somebody else do, that whatever?
I would say within like the process of actually like taking the pictures and editing, like I think I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. I think the editing can get a little repetitive at times, especially if it's, I would say the one thing that I wouldn't say it annoys me, but I guess there's, I guess I got a little lucky with starting off with basketball, which once I have like a certain setting or certain like kind of preset of whatever I'm going to throw on in Lightroom for like a certain game, I don't really have to change it much for that game. It's just kind of, it's almost I mean, obviously like, there are pieces that I will have to kind of modify and stuff, but for the most part, I can kind of copy and paste and just call it a day for most of the pictures, like within one game for basketball. Then I started shooting football, and I was like, if one player moves into a shadow, it's a whole nother, it's a whole nother filter, like just kind of filtering out what I have to do for those. But I still enjoy doing that stuff. I think it just takes more time. I would say one part that and again, I don't know if I totally dislike it or hate it yet. I think I might as I kind of leave school and get more into just focusing on photography, but just the business side of trying to make my calendars and book people. at first, I mean, I think at first it was cool. I was like, oh, people actually want me to come shoot, and like I can actually fill up my calendar. And I think now that I've kind of gotten used to it a little bit, I'm just like, I don't know where this is gonna fit. And trying to do that, kind of put in the puzzle pieces of how to fit everybody in, is getting a little. I almost kind of wish I had somebody just to kind of take care of. If they could just tell me where to go and I'll just go do it. But having to plan it out myself is becoming a little annoying. But
I gotcha. What type of shooting are you doing aside from sports, if anything?
Yeah. I've actually, I don't know if it was just kind of a weird coincidence this past summer, but I had a lot of proposals and elopements just to do over the summer. I probably had maybe 4 or 5 like proposals the second half of the summer, and it's still kind of funny to me because most of them are still people that I met through sports who have just need something, like, so it still all kind of ties back to the people I've met within sports. But I did a handful of proposals, and I think I did 1 or 2 elopements. Which those are very nerve-wracking to me. I think I've gotten comfortable within sports, and even if it's like a bigger game, I'm still kind of like, okay, I know what I'm doing, like, and I'll figure it out. But especially like the proposals, I'm just like, I can't mess this up.
Yeah.
That part freaks me out a little bit, but I've been doing some of those. I think my favorite thing to do, which I don't know if this is really outside of sports, but I love doing grad pics for athletes because I think it's just really cool, kind of a portrait setup of like, we can have them in the arena, but they're not gonna be playing. I think it's a cool, I really like, there was this one picture I took of a friend who he had graduated from VMI, and we just had a picture of him. Like, I think he was in his jersey, but he also had like a framed like jersey that the school had given him like as he graduated. And it was just like him sitting in the bleachers like with that. And I really like those kinds of those pictures too, just very environmental kind of stuff too. But yeah.
Nice. And what are you shooting with? Are you a Sony, a Canon? I'm using
Canon, and like I said earlier, like I'm not super technical. Like I really couldn't give you a lay down of the pros and cons of choosing one over the other. But I think it ties back to Canon's just what my parents had in the house when I was growing up, and my dad's always just kind of, I don't know if he has a reason for it either, but we just always had a Canon camera in the house. That was just kind of what we took on vacations and what we had for birthdays and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I just kind of stuck with it. I think it was just kind of a family thing. I was just like, I've just kind of grew up with Canon, and I don't really, I guess I'm not in tune enough technically to really be like, oh, Sony has this, like I need to start switching over to Sony. And I think I could reach that point sooner or later, but no, I'm very happy with the cameras I have, and I'm using a Canon 6, what is it? Hold on. I have my Canon R, and I had been using a Canon 60 for a while. Now I think I'm using the Mark II.
Okay.
But they've been like awesome, and I don't think I'm really at a point where I could just be like, oh, like they're good, but I need to start getting these or something like that. And I use Sigma lenses for the most part. A little more affordable with the student budget, but yeah, so that's where I'm at. And I don't really, like I said, like I don't really see myself switching anytime soon. I think once I kind of get a good idea of what maybe I'm looking for, and once I have a better idea technically, then I might start looking into other stuff. But Canon's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
And for what it's worth, for anybody that doesn't know, camera equipment is expensive, and it adds up very quickly.
It adds up insanely quickly, and I'm very I'm very grateful that, like, especially just because like I started off, like I basically just stole my parents' camera. Like when I went to college, I just kind of took it, and I was like, I'm gonna take it. And I've been very fortunate to have my dad's kind of picked it up as a hobby too. Like he's started to kind of take pictures of my former high school's like football teams. Like he was doing it when my brother was there, but now that my brother's graduated, he's just kind of doing it, I think, just as a hobby and as a pastime for him. But I think it was kind of funny to see. That also just kind of feels, I don't know, it feels good because I feel like I grew up just with my dad and my mom just taking pictures of birthdays and stuff. And then I think then it kind of switched to, I was doing more of this like photography, very heavy photography stuff. Yeah. And then I think it kind of flipped back again, and my dad was like, I'm gonna start doing this stuff too. And not saying that I'm the reason he's doing it. I think he'd probably have his own thing to say about that. But it's cool to see him kind of doing it too. So yeah.
Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me today actually, and they're like, oh, like what are you shooting basketball with? And I was like, oh, it's a 70 to 200 2.8. And he had texted me, and probably 5 minutes go by, and he texts me back and he's like, "Oh my God." And I was like, and I was like, yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
it's not a cheap purchase.
It's not. But I will say, I do think that 70 to 200, I think that is the best sports lens you can get. I think that is the best range for sports, period. I think especially for basketball, but even football, I have a lens that goes to 300, and I think one thing's just practicality. It's not practical for me to drag that thing around, because I think some photographers, they set up their monopod and they're there for the game. I think if that's what you need, then that's what you need. But I think for me, especially because I'm working with the team, I like being closer to them. Like, I'll just kind of stay on the sidelines with Richmond for more of the recent games. Like, I don't need a 300 to do anything, and it's gonna slow me down, like literally just trying to walk across the field with that thing. So yeah, 70 to 200s I think is where it's at.
I agree.
Yeah.
So do you, Megan, have and again, we kind of touched on it, but do you have a favorite single photo that off the top of your head, you're like, yes, that's the one. I remember that moment. I remember where I was. Do you have a favorite photo?
I don't know if it's my favorite, and maybe I'm just gonna say this photo because my friend just brought it up the other day, because we were talking about something and one of my photos had come up on his timeline, and he was just like, "I love this picture," and maybe I just have it in my head, but there's this one picture, and it was Bones, our player that just drafted this past draft. It was at the tournament, the conference tournament finals in Dayton, Ohio. He's like sitting, I'll see if I can pull it up, but he is sitting on the bench, and just how the coaches were kind of aligned, like you could just see his face, just him sitting down, and like the coaches like backs were kind of taking up the rest of the space.
Yeah. And
he's just kind of leaning over and just like, I mean, he's just kind of thinking, like, I don't know what if he was just listening or if he was thinking, but he's just kind of sitting there. I like that one. And actually, now that I'm saying that, I'm thinking I have like a different favorite, but you know what? Okay, I'm gonna switch it. It's the same player. It's the same player, and I actually had somebody come up to me at a football game because they were looking at, it was another photographer, and he was looking at my Instagram, and he was just like, "This is a horrible picture." It's like, what? And the photographer has been super nice, but I think his first glance at my page, he was like, "Why did you post this picture?" And I was like, what are you talking about? And it's this one, it's the same guy, it's Bones Highland, and it's him leaving Siegel Center, and I think it was his last time leaving Siegel Center, and I feel like the photo, it just kind of felt like, yeah, like that he's not coming back.
Yeah.
Let me see, how could I send this? Hold on. Or maybe I could, I don't know, but it's basically him, and he's leaving the arena. He had just done his press conference, and he's got both hands up, like he's kind of like waving to the little crowd that was there because of COVID.
Yeah.
And it's a bad picture because like the whole like the net and like the whole hoop, and just because we don't have like the hanging like backboards, like we have like the stand-up ones.
Yeah.
And so that one's it's pretty much in the way of like half of his body, but you can see his number and you can see his name and you can see his hands kind of waving at somebody. And to me, it just kind of felt like I was just like, he's not, like, he's done, like he's leaving BC, he's gonna move on to the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think technically speaking, I think it's a very bad photo, but I don't know. I think you just kind of feel like he's moving on and time for the next chapter. So that's probably my favorite photo, and I don't know why. And I think that just kind of speaks for my stuff in general. I don't think it's always the best stuff technically, but I think the emotion's there most of the time.
Exactly.
And I think that's what drives most of my stuff. But yeah, I'll go with that one.
Okay. Yeah. So I definitely told you this. I commented on the picture last year. My favorite picture from 2020 is your picture, and it's the picture from the A10 tournament that you took of, I forget his name, the center from St. Bonaventure. I think it's a Sunni. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yes, it is. I think it's him. Yeah. And he's holding the trophy, and there's confetti raining down. He just has this huge smile on his face. Yes. And it's my favorite picture from last year. Oh, thank you. I
I was torn. That picture almost didn't happen. I really didn't want to go take that picture because I was there for VCU, and we had
understandably, yeah.
Me and my little media gang. We had like taken the 8-hour drive from Richmond to Dayton, and like the game. I mean, I'm not gonna get into the game, but I just felt like it was never really there. Like the energy just wasn't really there for VCU. I felt like.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, I was just like, I mean, my work was done. Like VCU was off the court, everything was done. I didn't need to be taking any more pictures, but because I was there for the newspaper. And then I saw all the photographers and all the media kind of lining up on the opposite side. I was like, do I want pic? I was just so upset. I was like, do I want pictures? Yeah. I get very attached to the teams that I eschew, especially VCU and Richmond. I feel very attached to both of those teams. I was just like, I don't know if I want to go take pictures of these guys just gloating over the loss, but I went over and I saw the confetti and I was like, I need a confetti pic. Like I've never had a confetti pic before, and I was like, that's on my little bucket list. But I had to go do it, and yeah, that picture turned out a lot better than I was expecting. I don't really know what I was looking for, and again, I think it was just another moment that it opened up to me because I didn't need to be getting those pictures, and
exactly.
I didn't need, and I think just again and again that just kind of proves to be, at least for me, that's just the best opportunity for me to get the best pictures.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy how, like, again, like everybody goes in with a plan, whether it's a particular play or a particular player, but like some of the best photos are kind of caught on a whim. You know, it's like you said, you didn't need to be there, you didn't need to be taking pictures, but something kind of drew you over. And again, personally, favorite picture from last year. So
thank you.
I appreciate you for continuing to shoot.
Of course.
So what's this is kind of another question that I like asking, and I think because in many ways, I think whatever you do, it's a microcosm for life in one way or another. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a question that I ask everybody because I like the feedback. I like to hear what people have to say. What's the most important thing that you've learned from photography? And this is not a photography question, like life lessons that you've learned from your experience.
Yeah. Well, okay. Oh man, I feel like I could go a couple ways with this. I feel like I'm gonna start it within. I'll take it outside of photography, but I'm gonna keep it within basketball for a second. I think just getting in within basketball culture and just seeing how much of an impact that players can have on younger generations. I think I grew up in a very privileged area. I think or family. Like I went to a high school that was extremely diverse, and I think it was one of the most like diverse schools in the country or something like that. But still, just my family was very privileged, and I always had a sense of not really knowing that I was gonna do something that would be okay for me, but I knew that I was gonna fall into it. I knew that there was gonna be something next for me whenever I finished middle school, whenever I finished high school. Like I knew there was gonna be an option for me.
Sure.
And I never felt like I needed one thing to really drive me to continue going that way. I think I just knew, like, aside like from my parents' expectations, I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing and just having a good time, and I'll find what I need to kind of keep me going. But I never had something that I was like, I need this so that I can keep going.
Absolutely.
And I think just getting into the basketball world, I've just met people that, you know, like people say like, oh, like basketball like changed my life, like basketball saved me, and I didn't really get what they were trying to say, and I just kind of took it as like, oh yeah, like they like playing basketball.
Yeah.
And I don't think it really hit me until maybe even earlier this year. I was just like, some of the people that I know, like they wouldn't be here if they didn't have basketball. I mean, it got them out of stuff. It got them out of bad places, bad physical places, bad like mental places.
Sure.
And just seeing how much of an impact that just a sport can have on somebody. And I always grew up playing sports, and I think I was maybe almost too privileged to the point where I was just like, yeah, I'm playing sports, like it's fun, it's a good place to compete, but it was never, oh, like field hockey's keeping me going, like that's the only thing keeping me going right now.
Yeah.
so just seeing that and seeing how important sports are, because I think when I first started doing photography within sports, I was like, it was fun, but I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to feel good about myself making a career out of this, because I was like, am I really benefiting anybody else if I felt very selfish in doing it at first, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to be long term, because I don't feel great doing it, because I don't know if I was really benefiting anybody else.
Yeah.
But then the more I got into it, I was like, no, there are kids that are looking at these photos, not my photos personally, but there are kids looking at photos who are watching NBA games. And I mean, that's what's driving them to get somewhere else. And I think that's been I don't know if it's the biggest takeaway from just my time in photography, but it's been a huge wake-up call to me, and I think it's been very humbling to me to see it. And I think it's also just been a motivator to been like, okay, like, no, you should keep doing this, like, people are going to benefit, and whether they're the people that you're seeing or not, like, I think somebody's going to benefit from it. So that's been a huge part of it. And then I think just maybe broader, just like knowing that these people are like living in the moment. And I think maybe it's because there are people like that are doing like our jobs of like covering them, that they're able to live in the moment. And I think it's been like, yeah, like I'm doing that for them, but it's also been to me just like, no, like you should just be where you are, and like be where your feet are at, and just enjoy it, and like do what the people are doing that you're taking pictures of. Like, I'm gonna take care of them while they're doing it. Like, they don't have to worry about taking their phones out and getting coverage of that. Like, I've got them covered for that stuff. They don't have to worry about it. So it's good for me there, but it's also just been like a reminder to me, just day-to-day life. Like, I don't need to be worrying about, you know, whatever is going to happen next week or next month, even, like, just day by day, just kind of being where you're at.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I love that, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you could shoot one person, dead or alive, sports or otherwise, who would it be?
Oh no. Okay, if we're gonna do like dead or alive, honestly, I grew up with the Beatles, and like kind of even going into like the whole photography thing, like Linda McCartney, just her time with the Beatles too, and with Paul McCartney. The Beatles really got me through like middle school and high school. Like, that was kind of my backbone of my I just feel like growing up and my childhood. So if I could, just any of them, even if it's like just one of them, or if it was all of them together as a band, like that would have been, yeah. Like, even if I could somehow manage a Paul McCartney concert in the next 5 years, if he's still up and running, then that is what I would love to. I think that would just really be the like epitome of like full circle for me, because I just really feel like this is like a whole nother conversation, but I really just feel like the Beatles got me started with everything. Like, I feel like that's what kicked off like all of my art interests and everything. So I think that would just be a huge full circle moment for me.
We got to talk it in. We got to speak it into existence. We got to make this happen.
Yep. I'm going to see Paul McCartney sooner or later. It'll happen. Yeah.
Exactly. We're going to manifest. We're going to manifest.
Exactly.
Do you have any tips for anybody that's potentially watching, listening? Any tips for photography? You know, how you got here. And again, I know you're not where you want to be, but you've gotten to a certain point where I think your feedback, your words would be beneficial to somebody who, you know, might be in high school just picking up a camera and like, hey, I think I would love to capture the emotions of a player at a collegiate level. What advice would you give?
Yeah. I would say, first and foremost, don't get caught up in the equipment, the cameras. And I think maybe it's easier for me to say that because I don't really know what all of the equipment really entails to an extent. Like, I don't know what the good and bad ones are really. But I would say just take whatever camera you have and go take pictures. And honestly, I mean, I've still got my iPhone 8. I'm still running that thing, but I mean, the new iPhones or really any phone is, like, the camera's insane. Like, I don't think it's dumb to just go and go to your high school or go to your whatever local team you have and just take pictures. Like, if your iPhone's what you have, then your iPhone's what you have, and just and use that. And I don't use a lack of equipment as an excuse to not get started. I mean, like we're saying, this stuff is crazy expensive, and I I'm very fortunate that I think most of my stuff has kind of just come down from like, like my family using it and me just kind of taking over and doing that stuff. So I feel very fortunate with the equipment that I have, but I would just say take your iPhone, take whatever kind of little DSLR or whatever kind of point and shoot that you have and start taking pictures. And I think with that, I think at the very least you can figure out what you like taking pictures of, and I think you can figure out what your maybe even to a point like what your angles are, like what parts of the sport that you prefer shooting or whatever event you're shooting. You can figure out like what you like taking pictures of, whether you're really into like getting those dunks, or if you're like me and you kind of like more of the in between moments, like on the bench or whatever. I think regardless of what you're using, you'll find what you want to shoot within the sport, or maybe you'll realize I don't want to shoot the sport. Let me try something else, or let me go into event photography or something different. So I would say first and foremost, like don't worry about equipment, and I don't think that's really a worry that you should have until you're like, okay, like I'm gonna start making money off of this. Like let me start investing. I would also say don't, and kind of goes hand in hand, like go shoot your high school team, go shoot the local just youth teams. Like they want their pictures as much as the college guys do. I don't think there's a difference in want from the players in terms of media coverage. I think if they can get it, they can get it. So go start the high schools and take pictures. And I think high schools especially, I mean, you're gonna eventually run into somebody who's like, oh, my older brother plays at so-and-so, or like my cousin plays at so-and-so, and it's gonna be just very slowly, and maybe it feels like it's taking forever, but I think you're gonna find somebody's gonna reach out and be like, oh, like I saw you take pictures of my cousin at this high school, like can I come out? And it's gonna happen, I think, sooner than you would expect. Like I think it might feel like it's taking forever, but I think within a couple of months of just consistent, just good working with the high school, working with a couple players, I think it'll come. And again, like we talked about earlier, the photo community can be a great community. The sports community can be a great community. I've had, just like within this week, I've had a couple just interviews looking forward to figuring out what I'm doing after college. And there was one guy I was talking to at a college, and he was just like, I'll be straight up with you. Like, I don't know if we can afford to bring you on full time, but if I see an opportunity come up at a different school, I'm going to let you know. And I think there's a lot of people like that they're not so entitled, or they don't feel so entitled, or they don't feel so not attached, but they don't feel like they're going to stick with, if they can't get me for their school, then like nobody else should get me for something else. Like there are people that are above what they're working at, and they're just looking out for people. And I think there's obviously there's people that aren't like that, but I think there's enough. And I think if you show good work, and if you show good not even good work ethic, and just being good to people, I think that takes you a long way. And I think people are gonna be like, Megan's not quite there yet with photography, but she's a good person, and she'll pick up what's going on and stuff like that. I think that'll take you as far as you need to go.
Wise words from a wise woman. I've got one last question for you, and we can kind of wrap things up here. You just mentioned it. You are currently looking for the next step. You graduate in December. What's next in 2022? What are your ultimate goals? Like, what do you want to ultimately do with your photography? Do you want to, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just for an example, do you want to stick with a particular team where you can get very intimate, know the players, know the coaches, and be able to cover the team? Do you want to work for a publication? What do you want to do ultimately? As of now, things change. I know that. What do you want to do?
I think I definitely want to get with a team or a school. I do think there's something to be said about staying with the team and getting more intimate with the players and figuring out those personalities and getting to know those personalities. I think that's one of my favorite parts of having been able to get so close to VCU and Richmond, just knowing the personalities that are on those teams and knowing because I think that helps my photography a lot, just again, especially because I'm looking for a lot of just the conversations and the high fives and stuff. And like, if I know off the court or off the field who's friends or who's closer with who, then I know what to look for when they come onto the court. So I would say that I do see myself probably staying with a team. I don't know if that's at the college level. I don't know if that's at a pro level, like sooner or later. But really just, yeah, I would say I'd like to get with a team, I think, as of right now. And I think there's huge like freelance opportunities. And I think freelancing is also really cool. And I'm definitely open to freelancing, but I feel like I have good connections with the clients that I've freelanced with, but I don't know. I feel like there's something that you can't really get once you're with a team and you're getting to know them and stuff like that. So I feel like that's kind of where I'm at. But I would say overall, I think wherever I end up, whether it's pro, college, at a high school, whatever, I think whatever team I'm with, I just want to really just humanize the players. I think there's a huge issue with just seeing the sports as like entertainment, which I think, yes, it is to an extent. It's entertainment, and like we watch sports, but I think also there's somebody but like behind that jersey, like there's still a person when they leave the court.
Yeah.
And I think it's bothered me more and more the more that I see people just not being aware of that and not taking that into consideration before they act on things or say things. So I think as long as I can just humanize whatever players I'm working with and making sure that whatever fans or whatever future players are kind of looking at my stuff, they know that, like, yes, like these are like awesome athletes, like they're very talented, gifted people, but they're also people, like they are somebody off of that court, there's somebody behind that number, like they are people. And I think as long as I can find work, even if it's not directly photography stuff, like if it's more video or just some kind of content that I'm producing, as long as it's helping, I think, humanize the athletes, I think that's what I'm going to be doing.
I love it. I hope you get 1 million job offers for once you graduate. And I'm absolutely, I'm a fan first and foremost. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see, what you create, what you put out, 2022 and beyond.
Yes, and beyond. Well, thank you so much for having me. I love this platform that you're doing. I love what you're doing.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
But yeah, no, this time has been awesome.
All right. I'll have your Instagram and everything obviously below, but is there anything else that you want to plug? Do you want to shout anybody out? Anything like that?
Oh man. I don't know. Ooh. Nothing really, just stay tuned for the Atlantic 10 basketball season. That's what I'm getting hyped up for, so get some more fans over that way. So let's do that. Yeah.
Sounds good. Megan,
right.
Thank you so much. We'll be in touch, I'm sure, but I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you. All right. I'll see ya.
Bye.